Air Marshal retired A.K.Singh is joining us on the phone line on this story, sir. Is it not shallow on part of the government to be alleging motives to a serving officer who's just looking at redressal and fixing of accountability in a crash?
No, I totally agree with you, or I should say I partially agree with you, because the reason is that individuals' motives can only be questioned after the case is decided. You and I can't sit and on a judgment on a case which is sub judice, as I've been given to understand. If you look at this particular case, there are precedents. Earlier a case like this happened where a mother of a pilot went to the President of India, and eventually the only thing Air Force did was that in their capacity as the systems which they head, the Chief of the Air Staff has said that in case any errors have been made by the organization, then he stands, he is aggrieved, and he certainly more or less apologized to the mother for being insensitive, if at all she thought it was insensitiveness. In this particular case, Wing Commander Kaila has represented, and the case is in the court. Now, it is for the Court of Inquiry proceedings to find out as to was it pilot error, because what the lawyer says is a legal language. But I'm sure the courts of inquiry which have been conducted have come to a particular conclusion. It's very difficult to turn around and say that there was a failure on the part of manufacturer. And more importantly, there is no such arrangement where a failure on the part of the manufacturer guarantees that compensation will be given to the pilot who is flying it, because it is not in position, and there is no such provision of the government. So it may happen that this case will then form a precedent to say that if this thing happens, and if he is representing that it is going to affect his chances of promotion, these two cannot be tied, because there are a large number of people who miss out on their promotions for one reason or the other. But I have not come across a single case which has missed out on promotion because of a particular accident or error. In case he is medically unfit, then government will do the compensation. When he wants to leave service, he would get what we call is injury benefits. So it's a medical benefits which are given to the individual. Until and unless the court decides one way or the other, I personally feel that the only thing I can comment on is the veracity of the case. And having been a Director General Inspection myself and having seen a large number of cases, I can say that the Air Force by and large is not ever caught on a wrong foot to say that they are not considerate of the pilot.
About the, aspersions being cast, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the government in their reply, which we're breaking here on the channel, sir, impute many different motives. We've actually identified 10 of them. You've got, you've got medical records that have been placed before, the Honorable High Court. You've got HAL saying that the injuries have not been caused by the crash. The injuries are caused by age. You've got the government saying that the officer is disgruntled as a result of not being considered for a promotion, and that that the career damage is his own fault. Don't you think, leaving aside the merits of the case, which, as you rightly said, the judge himself or herself will decide, insensitivity in this case, has a precedent. We've seen this in the Abhijit Gadgil case, and we're seeing it now as well. Is there any place for insensitivity in issues like this, sir?
Certainly not. Certainly not. You mentioned Abhijit Gadgil's case, and if I may say so, that Mrs. Gadgil had come and met me, and I went to the extent of showing her the courts of inquiry as they exist, and she went back quite satisfied. And after that, she met the President, and at that time Air Chief Marshal Tyagi did say, but the findings remained in place, because there were no change in findings, and insensitivity by a particular individual certainly needs to be castigated, which I agree with you. In this particular case, you are saying that the HAL is standing on particular grounds. HL is not the authority which will turn around and say what was the injury, whether injury was a cause, because after all
But they have. That's the point.
No, they are saying so. Any HL is an outside agency at the moment. If he says that it is the injury has been caused, kindly don't mix HL with the Air Force.
No, but you've got the government, which is the Ministry of Defence, represented by their lawyers, saying that this officer waited for a very long time before seeking legal recourse, and that he's disgruntled as a result of career progression. They've put it down to him wanting compensation. Repeatedly in their reply, they say this is a quest for compensation, and in response to that, the officer continuously says, "I don't want promotions, I don't want compensation. I'm only looking for accountability to be fixed, sir."
Yeah. Shiv, let me just say here.
Yes.
Shiv, let me just say here that individual is saying so. Well, maybe so, and I certainly honor the sentiments expressed by Kaila, and I'm sure every pilot of the Indian Air Force will have similar sentiments, because that is how we are brought up into the Air Force. However, let me tell you that it is very unfortunate that Ministry of Defence controls manufacture and use both. So when there are guarantees or counter guarantees required, HAL will defend its turf, whether it is right or wrong, and would always say that it is no fault of theirs. But the second aspect of it, which you said, was that HAL has said that the pilot, or HAL's lawyer is saying that the pilot is wrong, and that he is injured because of age, which is totally incorrect, because it will have to be a board of doctors which will sit under the aegis of the Director General of Medical Services, and we have DGMS Air also, who will along with it and sit with the panel of experts, because aviation medicine experts are with the Indian Air Force, and they would be the one to decide that injury is attributable to the accident or to a natural causes.
Right. Air Marshal Singh, many thanks for speaking with Headlines today. Many thanks to Shiv Arur as well for bringing the story into perspective and getting us that story of insult after injury to an armed force personnel. And that will also be our big story at 4 p.m. Don't miss it. There'll be a detailed discussion that will be coming up at 4, insult after injury.